So today we are going to be looking at the alternative future of the world. Now, this series is not meant to be 100% realistic, and there might be some things that are going out of realism here, but it's basically an alternate future, and we're allowed to do whatever we want. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this series, and without further ado, let's get right into it. So, first off, we have to start with where we are now, and where we are now is basically just the Russian war in Ukraine. So, here I have tried to roughly draw the current front lines, and as you can see, they occupy parts of Donetsk and Luhansk over in the Donbass region. They also occupy some major cities like Mariupol, they occupy Crimea, and then some areas in Kherson. So now with the Russian army fully mobilized and there with of course a lot more modern equipment and not just old equipment from the Soviet Union, we have the Russians storming into eastern Ukraine, taking over a lot of the Kharkiv region, and then taking over a major city that starts with a Z. I think it's called Zaporizhia or something like that. But yeah, that city is now taken, and they also capture all of Ukraine's coast using their navy. And on top of this, we also see the Russians declaring war on Moldova and Georgia at the same time. So with this, the Russians easily managed to take over all of Moldova using their claims in Moldova, namely Transnistria. And using Transnistria and annex Moldova, they managed to push further into Ukraine in the south. And on top of this, Russia also manages to use Abkhazia and South Odisha, which they currently occupy in Georgia, but nobody recognizes it. They make use of these areas which they currently occupy and manage to take over Georgia pretty swiftly. On top of this, in Ukraine, you can see that Russia is now getting closer and closer to their capital, which is Kiev. And now Ukraine is pretty much on the verge of collapsing. They managed to capture a lot of land in the center of Ukraine. And with the tides of the war finally seeming to change, we have Russia's most loyal ally, Belarus, finally declaring war on Ukraine. And eventually, and unfortunately for Ukraine, after several months of fighting, we finally have Ukraine completely capitulating. Now, Ukraine does not surrender because, well, it's Ukraine, but yeah, unfortunately, Ukraine gets occupied by Russia and Belarus, so eventually they're forced to sign a peace treaty, which we will be looking at in a second. Looking at this peace treaty, we have Belarus getting some lands out of Ukraine and Russia getting their claims right now in Ukraine being fully recognized by the world. So regions like Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and also Kherson, those are now recognized to be Russian. And on top of that, they also take some land in Kharkiv. The remainder of Ukraine is now given a new government, which is very pro-Russian. And on top of this, Moldova is annexed by Ukraine, and Georgia is annexed by Russia. Now, of course, the West is very unhappy with the outcome of this Russian and Ukrainian war, and so now NATO lines their troops all along the Russian border, the Belarusian border, as well as the Ukrainian border, because remember, Ukraine is now given a new government that is very pro-Russian. And in fact, we actually have the USA doing something to kind of warn Russia and kind of as to take revenge for Ukraine. And what they're doing is they're now invading Cuba. Now, the US, they mainly invade Cuba for this reason, but they do manage to find an excuse, which is that Cuba is hiding some sort of weapons, like some sort of Russian weapons against the US. So the US manages to take this excuse and invade Cuba. Cuba quickly falls to the US. And taking a look at this peace treaty, we have Cuba being fully integrated into the USA. So now Cuba is part of the USA, and this gives the USA a vast influence over the Caribbean. So now let's get into another issue that we're going to solve in the world that's happening right now. Now, this conflict is between Turkey and Greece. So let me explain a little bit of this background information before we get into this. Basically, Turkey and Greece, they are having this sort of dispute between these agency islands on, like, who owns them and all that. And this dispute somehow gets very serious, and Turkey and Greece even stop all their relations for a second. And with this, Turkey and Greece are both kicked out of NATO. NATO is saying, okay, you know what? This is stupid. Just get out of here. Don't be so childish. And so now they both got kicked out of NATO, and it is here that Turkey declares war on Greece. Now, NATO is basically neutral on this matter, and NATO themselves will not directly intervene with this issue. However, NATO basically says that NATO countries are allowed to join on the side that they want to. And it doesn't matter if they go against each other, it will not activate Article 5. So with this, we immediately have this Turkish and Greek war escalating into another Balkan war. Let me explain what happened. We have Cyprus joining on the side of Greece, Bulgaria declares war on Turkey, then we have North Macedonia, Albania, and Kosovo joining on the side of Turkey. Serbia immediately joins on the side of Greece. Same can be said for Romania and Montenegro. And finally, Bosnia and Herzegovina joins on the side of Turkey. And oh yes, Turkey's most loyal ally, Azerbaijan, joins on the side of Turkey. And so to despise Azerbaijan, we have Armenia joining on the side of Greece. So now let's get into the war, shall we? First off, we have Armenia capitulating to Azerbaijan as well as Turkey. We have Cyprus surrendering, and then we have some Turkish troops from Thrace pushing into Greece as well as Bulgaria. However, for the blue team, they have also made some progress by capitulating Kosovo, North Macedonia, Albania, and finally Bosnia and Herzegovina. However, as we move on in the war, we actually see the blue team getting the upper hand, as now troops from Greece, Romania, Bulgaria, and Serbia now all focus on invading Turkey via Thrace, and they're even able to threaten Istanbul. Here's a game changer though. Here we have Ukraine and Russia joining the war on the side of Turkey. Now let me explain why they would do this, right? I'm pretty sure some of you are going to be very confused right now. I mean, Serbia is a very loyal ally of Russia, pretty much their only ally in this Balkan area. Well, you could kind of count Hungary, but they're NATO, so not really. But yeah, let me explain why they're doing this. So basically, Turkey got kicked out of NATO, right? And if Turkey could become a Russian ally, Russia would be able to expand their influence in the Middle East as well as the Balkans. So basically, their goal here is to join on the side of Turkey to hopefully make it so that Turkey could become a Russian ally, but also like this, they would hopefully be able to expand their influence in the Balkans if they manage to capitulate, like, say, Romania or Bulgaria, and like puppet states out of those. They would be able to expand their influence in the Balkans and push their front lines with NATO even backwards. And on top of this, we also see Hungary joining the war on the side of Turkey in order to despise Serbia as well as Romania. Now, their loyal ally, Poland, obviously, they do not like this decision made by Hungary. However, Hungary says screw you, and then all Polish and Hungarian relations are now gone. Moving on in the war, with the Russians now joining the war as well as the Ukrainians, things are looking a lot worse for the blue team already. Now, get me wrong, the blue team has been able to make some progress by pushing into Hungary, and in fact, they even managed to capture Hungary's capital, Budapest, and Hungary is on the verge of collapsing. However, in terms of progress made by the red team, Turkey manages to completely kick the blue team out of their country. They managed to once again push into Greece and Bulgaria. And we see some Russian troops that are already in Ukraine pushing into Romania. They managed to capture all of Romania's coast, to capture a good bit of land from Romania, and they're even able to threaten their capital, which is Bucharest. Russian and Ukrainian troops now enter Hungary and manage to liberate the entire country, and from here Hungary launches a campaign into Romania and northern Serbia in order to kind of re-establish some of their old claims. On top of this, Croatia joins the war on the side of Turkey in order to despise Serbia, and also to liberate Bosnia and Herzegovina because there are some Croats in that country. And with this, the red team does very well. They managed to capture the entire coast of Bulgaria. They managed to push further into Bulgaria and Greece, And in fact, Turkey manages to pretty much kind of threaten Bulgaria's capital, Sofia, and it pretty much looks like the tides have turned in this war. As we continue on to the later days of the war, we see Bosnia and Herzegovina completely liberated. We see that Hungary manages to push further into Serbia, threatening Belgrade, which is their capital. On top of this, we also see the surrendering of Romania and Bulgaria, and Greece has just lost a lot of land in its panhandle. Eventually, we see all the remaining blue team countries surrender to the red team, and the red team countries that were previously occupied, like Kosovo, Albania, and North Macedonia, those countries have now all been fully liberated. Now I will explain this very complicated peace treaty. So first off, starting in the Caucasus, we see that Azerbaijan has completely annexed Armenia, and then moving on to Turkey, we see that Turkey has annexed Cyprus, and they also got some land out of Bulgaria as well as the panhandle of Greece. We see that North Macedonia has got land out of Greece, Albania has got land from Greece, Bulgaria is given a new government. Romania is also given a new government who lost land to Hungary as well as Ukraine. Speaking of Ukraine, they have annexed the entire coast of Romania. They've also gotten some land from Romania towards the north and the northeast. Romania is given a new government. Hungary got some land out of northern Serbia and Romania as they managed to establish some of their old claims. And on top of this, we have Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Serbia, Kosovo, and North Macedonia all reuniting into Yugoslavia. Now, why did this happen? This is basically Russia's idea to strengthen the Balkan countries, and so that this way Russia would be able to puppet Yugoslavia to expand their influence in the Balkans, but also make sure that they're not too weak in case a war breaks out between CSTO, which is Russia's alliance, and NATO. So now let's have a look at the alliances map, which I have made for the series. So we have NATO, which is in blue. As you can see, they've been pushed back a lot. However, we do see that Sweden and Finland are finally accepted into NATO in this timeline, as Turkey and Greece have both left NATO. And we also see Austria joining NATO, as there is a CSTO member, Hungary, right on their border, and they would like to protect themselves from CSTO expansion, so Austria has decided to join NATO. And as for the CSTO, they have greatly expanded their influence in Southern Europe, mainly the Balkans. We have Turkey joining, Azerbaijan joins, Greece, who is given a new government, has also joined. We have Albania, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary, as well as this new Ukrainian government, who, as I said, is very pro-Russian. And yeah, this is looking very bad for NATO right now. However, there are some skirmishes between the CSTO and NATO already. So basically, Yugoslavia claims Slovenia as part of Yugoslavia. However, Slovenia basically says, hey, no, this would ruin our sovereignty as a country. And so there is a huge dispute between CSTO and NATO, where CSTO claims Slovenia as part of Yugoslavia, whereas NATO basically says Slovenia is an independent country and is not part of Yugoslavia. So there is this huge dispute going on between the CSTO and NATO. And let's also have a look at some other alliances. So we have Iran, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen in the axis of resistance, and also Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, UAE, and Oman, part of the Arabian Shield Force. Now, if you look on the map right now, you'll see that Kazakhstan is colored white. Now, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Russia, Belarus, and Armenia are the 6 founding members of the CSTO in real life. However, I'm going to say that in this timeline, Kazakhstan has leaned towards the west, and this has triggered Russia a lot in this timeline. And now it seems like a possible war between Russia and Kazakhstan has become very likely. In fact, so likely that this war has become reality. Russia declares war on Kazakhstan, and on top of this, they also declare war on Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, the other Central Asian countries who are not in the CSTO. They're doing this just to expand their influence around this area. On top of this, we have Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Iran, some pretty loyal Russian allies joining this war on the side of Russia. to hopefully kind of connect with Russia and also to get some more land. So I'm sorry, but I'm not even going to go through every single detail of this war because this war is obviously very one-sided. I mean, Russia and Iran, those are some of the strongest countries in the world compared to like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. You seriously think the blue team has a chance? Absolutely not, as the red team managed to steamroll over all these blue team countries. And let's have a look at this peace treaty right away. Looking at this peace treaty, we have Iran completely annexing Turkmenistan. Uzbekistan lost land to both Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan also got some land out of Kazakhstan. The remainder of Kazakhstan goes over to Russia, and the remainder of Uzbekistan is made into a puppet state. Now let's have a look at the updated alliances map. So as you can see, Turkmenistan is now colored in red because obviously that is now part of Iran, and Iran is part of the axis of resistance. And on top of this, we see that Kazakhstan is colored green because now is mostly part of Russia, even though there is part of it given to Kyrgyzstan. And yeah, we also see Uzbekistan, who is now a puppet of Russia, being colored green. They're now in the CSTO as well. And we have Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan being in the CSTO as usual. And that is going to be it for this video. Before I end the video, let's have a quick recap of what happened. First off, we continue with the Russian war in Ukraine, where Russia wins, and we have Russia and Belarus getting land out of Ukraine. Ukraine is given a new government who joins the CSTO. On top of this, we have Georgia being annexed by Russia, as well as Moldova being annexed by this Ukrainian puppet. And next up, we have the US trying to avenge Ukraine by invading Cuba, and now Cuba is a part of the USA. Moving on, we have a major conflict between Turkey and Greece, who have both left NATO, and this led to a pretty major war in the Balkans, and this ends up being a win for Turkey, with Russia being able to take this opportunity to expand their influence over the Balkans. And finally, we have Kazakhstan leaving the CSTO and becoming more aligned to the West, and this triggers Russia and leads to a war in Central Asia, where we have Russian influence once again expanding, and of course, Iranian influence as well. So that is going to be it for this video. Have a look at this final map after all these events in the video if you want to, and yeah, I'll hopefully see you in the next video. And of course, let me know in the comments how you think about this video. I really need some feedback on this, and yeah, I'll wrap it up here.